All right, on to step 23. Has it really been that long since we did a video? Yes, it has. Yes, my life has been crazy for the past couple of months. I've been dying to get back to this, and now I'm finally here. So, that said, step 23, dealing with the exhaust. Important note, F46, you have a hole here and a hole here. They're meant for exterior mounting later on, but the point is to make sure that they are near the top along with the what's going to end up being the exhaust flap mount on that end. Just making sure that things line up the way that they're supposed to, so you end up with what you're looking for. Other than that, the other news is that one of my computers, one that I have relied on for modeling, decided to give up the ghost. So I am waiting for a case so I can pull the stuff off of my old computer hard drive and transfer it over to my newer-ish computer hard drive and do some more work. Bending this piece of photo etch right here, which is the exhaust shroud, you don't want it to be too tight. You want it to be just like the real thing, which is a spacer from the hot pipe to the outside, so you can safely move around it and supposedly touch it without getting burnt. The closest thing that I found to allowing me to make that proper curve is a graphite pencil that I bought, just because it's got a round exterior. I am guessing that there are a lot of other colored pencils or something along that lines that are going to give you that same diameter. It matches up pretty well with the diameter bending markings that they give you in the instructions. Regular pencils aren't going to work, of course, because they have the flat sides, and hobby knives are just a little bit too big at this point. So, fair warning. So, start off by bending this around. Now, there are other tools out there that can be used, and if you have one or do enjoy them, by all means, go for it. This is just what I do because I am cheap. So I've got that done. How does that look? A little bit wide and not as flat on this side as I'd want. That's where I can come back with my tweezers and no biology teacher would probably be ticked off if he heard me say tweezers with my forceps. And then you want to make sure that they're not unequal, that they're actually pretty even on each side, so that the bend is pretty close. And I'm getting there. The bend itself seemed pretty good. The downside is that it curves all the way around, because these sides stick out and go to the sides of plastic in there to mount. And the model's trying to give you exactly what you would see in real life, which is a heat shroud around a hot pipe, so that you can reasonably reasonably is a word that that goes with this, reasonably work around it without getting yourself harmed or burned or whatever. And the idea behind it is shroud goes on and mounts very close to, if not exactly, on the part like so. And you can see that the metal sticks out here. Gotta kind of futz around with it to get it to work. This is not an easy step, is what I guess what I'd say. So my answer is going to be first to place it. Oh, well, it would help if I did it the right way. That's a very good point. this cutout right here goes on the bottom. So, and from what I can see in the directions, these right here match up. So you don't have a whole lot of the, you don't have a whole lot of the top sticking out because you're worrying about matching up down here. Right there. So my answer to that is to get out my trusty black super glue, which you guys have all seen. Put a dab of it on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this side on, make sure everything's good, and glue the other side. And yeah, it's kind of boring, but this should get the work done. So as you can see, line that up down there, line that up here, and then just try to get them to mate up without too much issue. All the while waiting for the super glue to set. This seems to, this feels like it requires about 3,000 hands, but once it starts to set and stick, then it goes pretty quick. I mean, it's set real nice. Now I can see how much I have left to work with on this side, material-wise, and then adjust before I lay down the glue on this and stick it together. This does take a little bit of talent, I will admit. This is one of the harder aspects, is trying to get super glue, photo etch, and plastic all to sit down properly. So if you have methods that are comfortable for you, that may not be the same as this, you know, I mean, more power to you. It's not so much the way that we get to the end here, it's more the fact that we get it done. So in this case, I need something to give me a little bit of leverage on the photo etch. And then I just have to wait until everything decides to set. The nice thing about it is that once it does set, I'm fairly confident it will stay set. That's what I like about this black super glue. And it doesn't feel like I screwed up by not annealing the photo etch or anything like that, because it's bending to shape as I'm gluing it on. And in the end, when I put this on here, I'm, mostly happy with how that goes. And if I need to, I can adjust it by bending it, and, there may be some little separations from the photo etch and the super glue, and just using the side of a number 11 blade, go in and re-glue it and see what you can make happen. Again, the ultimate goal is to get this all glued together without too much trouble. Now, I'm not sure how accurate this shape in the instructions versus the shape that you end up with is, because this seems narrower and sharper, so maybe a narrower and sharper tool to give that round curve would be necessary. Those of you who may have special tools for doing the curves may find that, since you can work with different radii or circumference, I can never remember which one it is, it'll be easier for you. Regardless, the important thing is that we have the flapper mount up top, you have the cut curve at the bottom. So then we move on to this photo etch, 2 photo etch side pieces on the back side here, and also putting the flapper up top. Flapper, easy. And for anybody who may want to show the engine running, then you have the opportunity to open it up. So it's like that. I am not going to do that. I'm going to show it closed. But, you know, makes for an interesting addition. Anybody that's been around trucks, semis, equipment, diesel engines, stuff like that, are going to recognize that if they see it on the model. I will take this, get my fancy little bender, and just make my quick use. Or more accurately, I'm going to make 2 90-degree bends in the photo etch piece so that the piece is a general U shape when it's done. Now, here's the one that I've been using with the super glue. Do not do the mistakes that I have occasionally made in the past and use your hobby knife to bend your photo etch and still forget to take the glue off first. And yes, if you bend photo etch, you can use the forceps or other methods to straighten it out. In some ways, this hobby sometimes is more about performing one step and then finding a way to fix the screw up that you did when you created that step. And as I've shown in the past, another way that you can do this is to use the forceps and then bend it over. I can often use the backside. Now this photo etch from Trumpeter, in this case, or Hobby Boss, I'm sorry, is, yeah, Hobby Boss, Trumpeter, same company, right? A little soft. I mean, it makes for good folding in that, but it also means that rigid place parts aren't always rigid, if that makes sense. And get a little bit of a soft bend. This is where the bending tool comes in nice. You can see, and you know, whether it's a problem or not, you get a nice 90-degree bend there, and this is more of a softer bend. The important thing to note too that I did not take into account is on here the rivets go to the inside, not the outside. So I've got to fold these back around the other way if I want these to be the right or be correct, just because of the way this all mounts. Bit of a disappointment on my part, I agree. So I want to flatten this back out. I can do various things, but what I found worked in the past is just a nice broad piece of metal like the edge of the tweezers. Now, so you all know, when I was bending this, I was bending it where the etching is on the side opposite of the bolts, and I bent it to kind of fill that gap in, and that's not what they want. They want it folded against that. So keep that in mind in the future. So line your, it's one of those things that seems opposite to me. I always think, whether, you know, and I'm not saying it's correct, I'm probably wrong, but it always feels like if you etch a side that makes a channel and you want to fill that channel in, rather than using that channel to create your corner. Be that as it may. So, Bent these over. I did it the wrong way again. Ugh. So that's the jeez Louise, that's the kind of day we're gonna have coming back into modeling. So if you ever take a hiatus from the hobby and you're like, geez, I just cannot get my groove on, where have I been, am I even any good at this? We all have our problems. That's the best I can tell you. So I'm gonna flip, oh wait a minute, yeah, flip this over on this particular photo etch piece. Do it so that yeah, that's the hard part. So on this side, like I said, opposite of the bolts is where the folds are, so you know exactly where the fold is, but you want to put it in this way and fold it up. That makes it hard. The other option you have is to put it on here like so you can see on the edge here, so you can see where the folds are that you want to use, and then bend it down. So yeah, and now it's so bent twice in the wrong direction, it's hard to see where the line is. Nice thing is I can use this flat piece to just bend her over, but yeah, I'm not as thrilled with that. This is not as nice. It's working out, but I like to do things a little bit more precise. But this is on me. Guess we all have our off days. So now that I know where that is, don't do the wrong. I'm going to put it, like I said, with the that down. Now I've already got this folded, so I can only fold it about that far. I don't have to touch it up. And now that I'm getting to this point, I'm kind of not caring. I just want to move on. It's not a detail piece that's super important on this. It's dragging this video out a bit. But I think it's healthy to see that, you know, sometimes you make mistakes and you gotta figure out how to deal with them, rather than being able to just be awesome at it all the time. Good enough in my mind. So where does this go? This goes right on top of here and right in that little groove. So to get this done correctly, and it doesn't matter, there is no top or bottom, I'm going to do both sides in super glue. And apparently the back, I guess, because I'm dropping stuff. And then I'm going to take this, slide it in, hopefully without sticking it to my finger. Nope, it's stuck. The important thing is going to be that everything sits flush, which it's not right now, but that's the part we're working on here. Okay, I've got that all in. Got that there. Again, this is difficult, but we will get it right. Just because we can. But you can see how the angles aren't perfect, and for whatever reason, when I push this in, it doesn't swing it forward, it... Because this is supposed to be flat, as far as I can tell. Oh, it is not. Well, there's our first problem slash disappointment. Is you can see here, these aren't meant to go flat. These are meant to go like this. There's supposed to be a little bit of a lip, and they don't really show that. I mean, I guess there is this little sliver, but it's hard to tell. So me putting this on flush here has screwed up everything up the line. I didn't realize that. So what do? Now we're in fixing mode. So I'm taking my blade and very carefully, because this, again, this photo etch is rather delicate, working my way down there. Now I've got that loose. So I'm going to say that, okay, this is coming off a little bit better on the other side. Now I've still got the glue holding that on, so I got to be careful there. I'm going to take the blade down here. So let's back up and reassess what we have. So on this photo etch right here, there is, as far as I can see, no indicator of how far in this needs to go, which I guess I find kind of disappointing. And the only thing you have is what looks like just this side right here. In other words, there's no way to tell if you've got the right depth other than eyeballing it. Should this exhaust shroud be this hard, or should we be paying this much attention to it? You know, maybe not. But this is a giant piece of photo etch. It looks really nice, and it may end up drawing the eye once it's attached. So I will clean off the contact point, because we don't want to have a buildup of glue material in there when we're doing this. Again, we do not have a whole lot of leeway. The tolerances are pretty tight for the general shape. So I've cleaned off the glue on there. Now I'm going to clean off the glue on this side real quick. And again, I'm looking for any sort of locator that was on here, and I don't see anything. I know I didn't clean off any pins or markings or anything like that, so just kind of a swing and a miss by Hobby Boss in this particular case. We'll go from there. All right, so what do we have? We have the cap with the flapper on, and we know we need to be a certain depth. What I'm going to propose at this point, because of how this goes, I know this goes down to the bottom, so I'm going to propose putting this photo etch on one side and the other, so then I can slide that in and it'll stick where it's supposed to stick. Now, I think Hobby Boss to no end that they didn't have this as a little fold over, because that would have been crazy. The downside is that if this is not right, it looks like it's right, but if this is not right, then things may not fit. So I'm going to do a little dab on the top, and then put this on like so, just to get the positioning right. See where this sits. And as you can kind of tell, the photo etch itself is not happy. So, seems like a lot of fiddling around for something that's a very minor detail. Some people might even go, I'm not even going to put it on. I'm just going to stick it on and call it good. stick the plastic pieces on and call it good. It'll have a shroud, it'll look all right, but I'm going to be stubborn on this one myself. Part of the problem is my tweezers keep getting a little bit of the super glue in there and closing shut, and by the time I open them up again, things have moved. Yes. Okay, just a sec. I'm taking it off screen just because I need to stabilize the piece. So, yeah, if you guys have trouble with this particular portion, I'm having trouble with it too. Doesn't help that I'm kind of coming back to the building portion of this after a few months. So, okay, try this again. What also doesn't help is how lightweight this stuff is. I mean, this is some very fine photo etch. So, in a way, kudos to Hobby Boss for giving a high quality product. Just maybe too high quality? I don't know. So, anything I can do to get this to sit right. Part of what I'm doing is every time I flatten one part of this, the other part sticks out. So what I'm trying to do is to get both pieces to glue down flat, just so I have something to anchor. Then taking my hobby knife, I'm gonna dab just a little bit. Now this is the part where you don't want to, put a little bit here, a little bit there, or that, because then you start getting that wavy kind of look to it. I want to go along this whole edge real quick like, and just get a little bit of glue under there, something, because yeah, once I attach it, it's attached. So be warned, I've got the one side on, be warned, that takes a little bit of work, a little bit of planning ahead. So I'm going to clean off my forceps tips. I'm going to find my photo etch piece and try and make it as flat and straight as I can after I had taken it off the fret and cleaned it up. That'll make things a little bit easier later on, especially with whichever end I'm going to glue down. I want that piece to stick well and not be elevated or recess, up or down. I want it to sit on the piece and maybe have a little bit of uplift, but not much. If there are any burrs that you notice or anything, now is the time to clean them off. And I was noticing there's a small burr on this end. Try that again. There. So, that said, you can see how it kind of curves up there. I'm gonna just try and get this part right here to curve down, so I can attach that without too much trouble. He said, optimistically. Okay, so now I've got that glued at the bottom. I will carefully push it around a little bit and put the glue on underneath. like I just did on the other side. And this should also then give me a more, I'm going to say, accurate platform to add that other shroud that I wasn't folding correctly. Everything hopefully will positively line up after this is done. And I say hopefully because, you know, you never really know until you finally get things to stick and work and do. With photo etch. So now that the glue is starting to finally catch, to set and cure, I can see that, yeah, I got it. There's a few little burrs sticking up still, and that's annoying, but see what I can do. About cleaning that off. That doesn't really want to clean off, and I don't really want to have this stuff come flying out, but nice thing is the super glue is strong in this direction, so as you can see, I cleaned that up without too much trouble. Now, moving on to this, what I can do is place the plastic in, kind of crimp it together, and then start pulling it back. And I should be able to fit this in much better, but do it the correct way, or you may have a reason to be sad. Like I am right now. I put the photo etch side pieces on in the wrong spots because the flat part goes to the top. So I'm going to pause this and come back in a minute. See you shortly.